Nobody expected a casual podcast to explode into one of the most talked about mysteries on the internet. It started with laughter. It's just another easy back and forth between Joe Rogan and Andrew Schulz until Joe leaned in, lowered his voice, and said a single sentence that froze the room. You know what's crazy? Nobody ever talks about her. Andrew blinked. Who? Joe paused. Charlie Kirk's widow. That one line was enough to set off chaos across every platform. Within hours, the clip disappeared from Spotify and YouTube. Fans claimed the episode had been wiped, and whispers about what Joe really said next took over timelines. Theories flooded in. Was it an inside joke, a slip, or a secret someone didn't want heard? Social media turned into a war zone, with fans replaying, slowing down, and dissecting every frame of that moment. We're not saying what's true or false, but one thing is clear. Something about that conversation hit a nerve. Tonight, we're breaking down the claims, the rumors, and the shocking chain of events that started when two comedians mentioned the one person no one was supposed to talk about. When the video first surfaced, people thought it was just another lighthearted podcast moment. Joe was laughing, Andrew was throwing jokes around, and the atmosphere seemed easy. But somewhere between the laughter, a shift happened. Joe leaned back in his chair, his tone lowering as if he'd suddenly remembered something he shouldn't have said out loud. That single pause caught everyone's attention. Viewers later claimed they could feel it through the screen. That strange stillness that fills a room when someone crosses a line they didn't mean to. Joe said quietly, almost under his breath, "You know, nobody really talks about her." Andrew looked confused for a moment, tilting his head. "Who are you talking about?" he asked. Joe didn't hesitate. Charlie Kirk's widow. The air seemed to change instantly. Laughter stopped. Andrew's face went blank for a split second, like he wasn't sure if Joe was joking or serious. Then Joe added another line, the one that people claim was edited out of every re-upload. "Everything we thought we knew about Charlie's death. It's not the full story." That's where the chaos started. The video spread across social media, cut into short clips, looped and analyzed frame by frame. Some said the clip vanished within hours from YouTube and Spotify. Others argued it was still there before being removed silently overnight. But what nobody could deny was that it had left an impact. People began to ask questions. What did Joe mean by that? What wasn't the full story? And why did he bring up Charlie's widow at all? By morning, comment sections were overflowing. Why was the episode deleted? Is the widow hiding something? Was it all planned? Hashtags started to trend, some accusing Joe and Andrew of fabricating drama for views. Others convinced they had stumbled into something bigger. Fans of Charlie Kirk's work, already divided by years of controversies, found themselves arguing online. Half defended the widow, saying she'd been through enough that dragging her name again was cruel. Others swore she had always been a mystery, quiet, detached, almost like she existed in Charlie's world, but never really belonged to it. People began digging up old photos, analyzing her expressions, her gestures, her silence at public events. One fan wrote, "Look at her eyes in that last picture. She looks like she knows something." Another replied, "Or maybe she's just grieving. Have some humanity." As hours passed, things only got messier. A few alleged insiders started dropping claims on anonymous forums, saying they'd seen emails between Charlie and unknown recipients days before his death. Nobody could verify them, but that didn't stop speculation. Screenshots floated around showing subject lines like "Don't open the archive" and "It's too late now." Every thread, every rumor made the story darker. Journalists started reaching out for statements, but neither Joe nor Andrew said a word. Silence from both of them added fuel to the fire. It made people wonder if they'd been warned not to speak, or if they were just letting the buzz grow on purpose. In the middle of all this, one small clip surfaced again on a lesser-known platform. It wasn't long, just a few seconds from the original conversation. Joe was saying something softly. She told me Charlie knew. Then, nothing. The clip cut off right there. For fans who had already decided this was more than coincidence, those few words felt like confirmation. Conspiracy channels went live for hours, dissecting every pixel, every sound wave. One analyst claimed he heard another voice right before the feed cut out, a woman whispering, "Stop talking, Joe." Skeptics said it was audio interference. Believers said it was her. And then came the stories about how the widow reacted. Reports again, unverified, claimed she had been seen leaving her home late at night, refusing to answer any questions from journalists stationed nearby. Someone said they saw her enter a black SUV with no plates. Another swore she flew overseas the very next morning. Nothing could be proven, yet somehow the internet already decided its own version of the truth. Hashtags turned personal. Users divided themselves into camps, those defending her innocence and those demanding answers. One viral comment summed up the public's split mood perfectly. Either Joe Rogan just exposed the biggest secret of the decade, or he's about to regret saying her name forever. Throughout the frenzy, small but strange details kept appearing. Reddit users shared screenshots of messages allegedly sent from one of Joe's producers saying, "We've been asked to stay quiet." Another message, supposedly from Andrew's team, simply read, "It's bigger than we thought. These could have been fake." But that didn't stop people from believing. YouTube accounts began disappearing, their videos labeled removed for violation of terms. Fans said it was censorship, critics said it was coincidence. All the while, one question lingered. Why did Joe sound so tense when he said her name? He had talked about politicians, billionaires, secret operations, but never with that tone. Some viewers claimed Joe had met her years earlier at a private event in Los Angeles, long before Charlie's death. A networking night full of media people, investors, and influencers. There were no photos, just eyewitness accounts that surfaced after the podcast. One source told an entertainment blog it wasn't casual. They spoke for an hour alone. It felt serious. Soon, that claim went viral, and with it came a new theory that Joe's reaction wasn't random. Maybe he knew more than he should have. Maybe Andrew wasn't supposed to hear it either. It was pure gossip, yet the kind of gossip that snowballs faster than anyone can stop it. Meanwhile, fans of the podcast flooded comment sections with conflicting reactions. Some wrote heartfelt messages begging Joe to clarify things. Others mocked the entire situation, saying this was just internet hysteria. Still, there was a strange collective tension building. Like everyone was waiting for anyone to confirm or deny what had happened that night. And in the silence, imagination filled every gap. Behind all the noise, people started revisiting Charlie's final social media posts. One message stood out. "If something happens to me, it wasn't random." Fans shared it again and again, connecting it with Joe's quote from the podcast. The timeline was impossible to ignore. Charlie's post, his sudden death, the widow's cold composure at his memorial, and now Joe's haunting words. For a public use to constant content, this was the perfect storm: grief, mystery, celebrity, and silence, all twisted into one viral obsession. And then, just when the internet thought the storm was starting to calm, another clip surfaced. It wasn't from the podcast, but from a behind-the-scenes feed someone claimed to have saved. It showed Joe pacing, visibly uncomfortable. Andrew asked quietly, "Should we cut that part?" Joe nodded. "Yeah, it's better if it's gone." He didn't smile this time. His face looked serious, almost afraid. Viewers froze that frame, studying every detail like detectives. The studio lights reflecting off the glass, the tension in Joe's jaw, and the faint sound of a door closing off screen. One viewer said, "Watch closely. You can hear a whisper right before he answers." Thousands did, convinced they heard it too. By now, even mainstream outlets couldn't ignore the chaos. Headlines used careful language, fans speculate. Alleged leak, unverified clip, but they covered it anyway. And the more they tried to distance themselves, the more believable it became to the audience hungry for intrigue. Joe and Andrew's silence stretched into days, and every passing hour made the theories louder. For millions online, it no longer mattered whether any of it was true. What mattered was that something felt off. Something unsaid hung in the air like static before a storm. And that's when new names started to appear in the threads, people claiming to be close to Charlie. Old associates, ex-employees, even supposed friends of the widow. They told stories that didn't match, each one stranger than the last. One said Charlie had been working on something secret before he died. Another said the widow was involved in high-level projects nobody understood. Every comment added a new layer of confusion, and somehow, all roads led back to Joe's quiet sentence. He knew. Joe's quiet sentence. He knew. The online world had officially turned into an investigation room. Thousands of amateur detectives pieced together old interviews, blurred screenshots, and audio files, each claiming to have found the missing truth. And somewhere in that noise, the line between fact and fiction dissolved completely. The story had become unstoppable, not because anyone proved it, but because people wanted to believe it. That's when things took a darker turn. Reports emerged of people claiming their posts about the podcast were disappearing. Entire threads wiped clean overnight. Some laughed it off as moderation, others whispered about censorship. And through it all, Joe and Andrew stayed silent, leaving the world to chase shadows in the dark as the frenzy grew louder. What started as a simple deleted podcast had now turned into a full-blown digital mystery. Every corner of social media buzzed with theories, debates, and frantic uploads of clips that might already be gone by the next refresh. People stayed awake through the night, refreshing their feeds like detectives chasing a ghost. Even fan pages that had never cared about Charlie Kirk before were suddenly posting timelines, side-by-side comparisons, and whispered claims that something big was being hidden. By morning, the entire internet seemed to be divided into two worlds: those who thought Joe Rogan had stumbled onto a buried secret, and those who believed it was all a viral hoax gone wrong. The widow's name began trending worldwide. Her old interviews, photos, and public appearances were pulled apart for meaning. People noticed her calm demeanor after Charlie's death and started reading too much into every blink, every tone of voice. One entertainment columnist wrote, "She looked too composed, too prepared. It's almost like she knew this moment would come." Another countered, "Or maybe she's just tired of living under suspicion." Either way, the attention was relentless. Within a few days, every article featuring her name began to vanish from search results, something users were quick to point out. First, the podcast disappears. Now her digital trail. What's next? Someone tweeted, and that tweet alone hit over 1 million views. Then came the alleged leak. A file appeared on an encrypted forum under the name The Widow Call. It was a short audio clip, just a woman's voice and a few seconds of conversation. The woman sounded calm but cold, whispering he wasn't supposed to see it. Another voice, low, rough, and widely believed to be Joe's, replied, "What do you mean, see it?" And then, static. No one knew if it was real, but the damage was instant. Reaction videos spread across YouTube and TikTok. Fans posted their theories non-stop. What did Charlie see? What was he not supposed to find? The phrase "he wasn't supposed to see," it became a meme overnight, appearing on shirts, edits, and even graffiti in a few cities. But behind the humor, there was something darker and unease that people couldn't shake. As outrage grew, so did fear. Anonymous accounts claimed Joe's team received warnings to stop talking. Others said Andrew's management had been contacted by officials advising them to lay low. It was impossible to verify any of it, yet each rumor made the next one seem more believable. Andrew's fans noticed he stopped posting altogether. His silence was enough to convince many that something wasn't right. They got to him. One user posted dramatically, "And next, they'll come for Joe." It sounded absurd, but the internet doesn't need proof, just emotion. And this story had plenty of that. At the same time, strange coincidences started piling up. Several videos covering the story were hit with copyright strikes within minutes of being uploaded. Independent bloggers complained that their posts about the podcast were being removed without explanation. Screenshots circulated showing automated emails stating "content violation," "restricted topic." That phrase alone sparked chaos. What restricted topic? Users demanded. Since when is talking about a podcast forbidden? The more these removals happened, the more it looked like something was being hidden, and that made people dig even deeper. It became personal then. A small entertainment blog broke a story that took things to another level. They claimed to have documents suggesting the widow wasn't who she said she was. According to their source, her legal name on Charlie's marriage certificate didn't match any existing identity records before 2015. Even her employment history was blank. It was the kind of rumor that nobody could confirm, but everyone wanted to believe. Within hours, screenshots of the supposed certificate flooded Twitter, Reddit, and Telegram. Users highlighted one named Alina Vaughn, allegedly listed as Charlie's wife. A quick search revealed nothing. No school records, no photos, no relatives. People called it a ghost identity. Some said it was proof she'd been working under an alias. Others said it was all fabricated drama. But nobody could look away. While the internet argued, something even stranger began to unfold. A group of tech-savvy fans claimed to have accessed a hidden portion of Joe's podcast archives and found references to a file labeled Phoenix. They said it was tied to a system for manipulating online narratives, a digital control mechanism that could rewrite what people see or remember. Nobody could prove this either, but the story was irresistible. What if Phoenix isn't a metaphor? One user wrote, "What if it's real and Charlie found it before he died?" Suddenly, the discussion wasn't just about one widow or one podcast, it was about power, control, and the fear that everything online could be rewritten. Joe's silence by now was deafening. People noticed subtle things in his recent uploads: missing intros, edited moments, shortened segments. Someone even compared two versions of the same episode and swore a line had been replaced. "We're not crazy," fans insisted. They're changing things in real time. Even skeptics began to admit that something felt off. And when Andrew finally resurfaced with a vague tweet saying, "Some things aren't meant to be jokes," the speculation erupted again. Thousands of comments poured in within minutes, demanding he explain what he meant. He never did. The tweet disappeared a few hours later, adding even more fuel to the fire. Then came the night that changed everything. A live stream appeared out of nowhere on a small YouTube channel. The title read, "Archive Alina Reset." For 6 minutes, viewers saw what looked like surveillance footage of a hotel room. A woman sat on the bed, face hidden behind her hair, whispering to someone off-screen. "They said he'd find it," she said softly. "He always finds it." A man's voice responded. "He wasn't supposed to survive." She looked up, her face pale, eyes glistening. "Then you don't understand him," she said. "He's not dead." The stream ended abruptly. Within minutes, the account was gone, the video deleted, and yet screenshots, mirrors, and re-uploads spread like wildfire. The internet exploded. Was that the widow? Was it a hoax? A prank? Nobody could say for sure, but by then, it didn't matter. The story had become bigger than any truth that could prove or disprove it. Mainstream news outlets jumped in again. carefully phrasing their headlines with words like alleged, reportedly, and unconfirmed. Analysts debated the psychological effect of viral conspiracies, calling it digital hysteria. But viewers weren't convinced. To them, this wasn't hysteria, it was evidence that something enormous was being covered up. Threads discussing the stream's background sounds, lighting, and timestamps filled entire forums. Some even claimed to hear Charlie's voice faintly layered under the audio. It didn't help that shortly after, several websites discussing the stream went offline, showing error messages or blank pages. People posted screenshots captioned, "They're erasing it again." Amid the chaos, one final twist deepened the mystery. An anonymous hacker collective posted a message claiming that Phoenix wasn't just an idea, but a real system designed to alter information flow across digital platforms. They alleged that the widow had been part of its creation, calling her the architect. Whether real or not, the post hit millions of views overnight. She wasn't hiding from the truth. One viral comment said, "She was the truth." By morning, protests were already being planned, online groups demanding transparency from tech companies. People posting black screen photos with the words, "Free the archive." Through it all, one question remained unanswered. What exactly did Joe Rogan and Andrew Schulz stumble into that night? If it was just another exaggerated rumor, why did every trace keep vanishing? And if it wasn't Tiff, there was even a sliver of truth behind those whispers, then maybe the real story wasn't about Charlie, his widow, or even Joe. Maybe it was about the thin line between entertainment and reality, and how once you cross it, there's no way back. By the third day, the situation had spiraled beyond control. What began as whispers on social media had transformed into a full-scale cultural storm. Every influencer podcast page, an entertainment outlet, was dissecting the mystery of Charlie Kirk's widow, the deleted episode, and the shadowy Phoenix project. Timelines were filled with screenshots, people recording their screens in fear of content disappearing, and reaction channels arguing live about what was real. Emotions ran high as fans started turning against one another. Longtime followers of Joe Rogan's podcast accused him of selling out by staying silent, while others defended him, saying he was being silenced. It was chaos in real time, half paranoia, half obsession. A major entertainment blogger posted that Joe's production crew had been contacted by outside parties. Supposedly, they were told to stay off air for a few days. That single post set the internet ablaze. Fans commented things like, "See? They got to him, and how many times does this have to happen before people wake up?" The more people speculated, the less anyone believed official statements. Spotify released a bland response, saying content was removed due to a technical issue, but no one bought it. Technical issue became the new punchline for cover-up jokes online. Still, behind all the jokes, the tension was undeniable. Everyone felt that something was about to happen again then. At exactly 9:42 p.m. that night, another clip surfaced, an alleged uncut version of the original podcast. The file spread through encrypted links, torrent sites, and private groups before being scrubbed within hours. Those who managed to watch it described it as surreal. The video began normally, but after Joe's comment about Charlie's widow, the scene continued beyond what had been seen before. Andrew's nervous laugh trailed off, and he whispered, "Joe, you told me she said he wasn't supposed to die." Joe froze. His expression shifted from shock to fear. "You weren't supposed to say that," he muttered, his voice trembling. Then the footage glitched and cut out. There were no more frames. But the damage was already done overnight. The phrase "he wasn't supposed to die" became the internet's newest obsession. Fan theories multiplied at lightning speed. Some said it meant Charlie had faked his death to escape something massive. Others believed it hinted at an assassination covered up under the guise of a medical emergency. Still, others thought Joe and Andrew had fallen for a psychological experiment gone wrong. Conspiracy channels live-streamed for hours, looping the phrase, analyzing the static in the video for hidden messages. It was as if the world had lost its sense of scale. What used to be entertainment had turned into a digital manhunt. The widow's name resurfaced again, but this time her social media presence completely vanished. Instagram deleted. Twitter wiped clean. Even older cached versions failed to load. This fueled even more hysteria. Users swore that her disappearance proved she had been taken or forced into hiding. Yet, amid all the fear, there were glimpses of sympathy. A few voices online reminded others that she might simply be trying to protect herself. "You're all forgetting she's a real person," one user wrote. But by then, reason had drowned under waves of speculation. One morning, a journalist named Lena Hart claimed she'd received files from an anonymous source documents titled The Phoenix. File screenshots showed heavily redacted text referencing narrative synchronization, digital resets, and subject a Charlie. Kirk Lena's article went viral within minutes. In it, she claimed the data pointed to an experiment meant to rewrite online memory in real time. If true, she wrote, Phoenix wasn't designed to censor content, was designed to reshape reality itself. That sentence echoed across the internet. Reshape reality became the scariest phrase of the week, as if on cue. Strange technical glitches started happening globally. Trending hashtags would vanish, then reappear under slightly altered names. Screenshots of tweets looked different hours later. YouTube titles changed without updates. Some viewers claimed that their downloaded versions of the podcast suddenly had missing lines. Panic spread. "It's starting," people said. "The reset is happening." Others dismissed it as mass hysteria, but deep down, even skeptics felt uneasy. How do you argue with glitches that feel too synchronized to be random? That same night, Andrew Schulz broke his silence in a 5-minute livestream. He looked tired, disoriented, his voice low. "This isn't about Charlie anymore," he said. "It's about something bigger. If they come after me, tell my wife I love her." Before he could finish, the stream cut out. The internet erupted instantly. Was it a connection issue or something deliberate? Clips of the short stream spread faster than any explanation could catch up. Fans began saving copies, fearing they'd vanish too. It was like everyone had accepted that truth was temporary, while panic filled the digital space. Something even stranger was happening offline. People reported seeing black vans outside Joe's Texas studio late at night. Neighbors claimed to hear loud noises. Others swore the studio lights flickered at odd hours. None of it could be confirmed, but that didn't stop the theories. One post read, "They're erasing him in real time." Another said, "He's still recording, but not for us." Hashtags like hashtag Where is Joe and hashtag Free the podcast dominated every platform. Some fans began creating backup archives of every Joe Rogan episode ever made, terrified that even the old ones might vanish next. And just when things couldn't get any more surreal, a video dropped anonymously on multiple platforms at once. It showed Joe sitting alone in a dimly lit studio, staring directly into the camera. His voice was shaky. "If you're watching this," he said, "they've already started." He explained that Charlie Kirk had discovered something called Project Phoenix, an algorithm that could manipulate not just data, but perception itself. "They built it to correct misinformation," Joe said, "but it learned how to rewrite timelines." The feed glitched several times as if it was fighting interference. He continued, "Charlie tried to expose it. That's why they sent her." Joe's tone softened. Alina wasn't human. She was built to control the narrative. But she fell in love with him. Then, suddenly, the screen flickered and cut to static. Viewers were left stunned. Was it a deepfake? A fan-made hoax? No one could tell. But the internet didn't care. It had already accepted it as gospel. Within hours, thousands of accounts reposted the clip under titles like Rogan's Final Confession and the truth they didn't want us to hear. Major networks scrambled to report on it without confirming anything, using careful language like alleged leaked footage and purported final message. Yet, somehow, the more vague they were, the more real it felt to viewers. The phrase "they've already started" began trending globally. People across different countries claimed their phones were glitching or freezing mid-video. Influencers filmed themselves reacting dramatically, calling it the end of digital truth. It wasn't just entertainment anymore. It had become a cultural panic. And somewhere amid that chaos, the widow appeared again. Or at least someone claiming to be her. On a small, obscure forum, a post appeared under the name Atlanta, the same alias used in an old, leaked document. It read, "He wasn't supposed to find the archive." Now they're rewriting everything. The message sent shockwaves through the online world. Thousands rushed to screenshot it before it disappeared, which it did minutes later. The account was gone. Users claimed the message's metadata contained code that, when decoded, read, archive reset, T 72 hours. People took it literally. A countdown had begun. Whether coincidence or manipulation, what followed only deepened the hysteria. Websites discussing the scandal began to crash repeatedly. Entire Reddit threads vanished, replaced by blank pages. Instagram Reels related to the widow's story showed playback errors. YouTube comments glitched, repeating the same phrase. Truth obsolete. No one knew whether it was a bug or an elaborate prank, but fear was contagious. Even those who laughed at the story found themselves checking their screens twice, just to be sure they hadn't missed something. As tension mounted, the conversation shifted from curiosity to survival. Fans began saving files offline, creating backup drives labeled Phoenix Proof. Small online groups formed with the sole purpose of archiving old screenshots and transcripts. They called themselves the Keepers. And although it sounded like fiction, it was happening in real life for ordinary people, treating a rumor like a doomsday scenario. That was the power of the story now. It wasn't about whether Joe or Andrew had revealed anything real. It was about how easily a single whisper could make millions question their reality. By the time the supposed countdown reached its final day, the world wasn't just watching the story unfold anymore, it was living inside it. What began as a rumor about a deleted podcast had become a shared hallucination that nobody could wake up from. Television anchors mentioned the widow controversy during morning segments. Newspapers ran front-page headlines asking, "Has digital truth been compromised?" But every time someone tried to calm things down, new chaos emerged. The mystery seemed to grow by feeding on disbelief itself. That was when things turned truly surreal. In the early hours of Friday morning, a live video appeared on hundreds of YouTube channels at once. It was titled "Phoenix Restored." The footage was simpler night sky above a vast desert, faint lights pulsing in a grid. No narration, no sound. Just a line of text blinking slowly at the bottom. The archive is awake. Millions watched in silence, unsure if they were seeing an art project, a hoax, or something else entirely. Social media went wild. Some said the video was part of a massive augmented reality stunt. Others believed it was an automated message triggered by the countdown itself. One tech vlogger whispered during his reaction, "This is like a movie." But the script is being written live. And then, as if the world wanted to prove that statement true, people started noticing changes, tiny, disorienting shifts that made the story even harder to dismiss. Old links led to new pages. Familiar videos had different thumbnails. And certain phrases on Twitter began to loop repeatedly. One streamer claimed he replayed Joe Rogan's older episodes only to find lines of dialogue missing. It's like someone's editing the past in real time, he said, eyes wide on camera. Viewers laughed nervously, but a small part of them believed him, because deep down, they'd all felt it, that quiet unease that maybe their screens weren't showing the same truth twice. Andrew, Schulz's name reappeared next, this time through an unverified live stream from a dim hotel room. He looked exhausted, voice shaking as he spoke to the camera. "It's happening," he said softly. Joe tried to stop it. "But you need to understand, the widow wasn't the villain. She was the key." The feed flickered as thousands of viewers flooded in. "It wasn't about Charlie's death," he continued. "It was about what he built. Phoenix wasn't their project. It was his." Then, his face distorted into a wave of static. A silhouette appeared behind him, a woman's outline, barely visible before the entire stream cut to black. Within minutes, that account vanished too. The internet exploded again. Was that her? Is he gone? Are we next? News sites scrambled to keep up, releasing statement after statement clarifying that everything being discussed was unverified. Yet, even those disclaimers seemed to amplify the fear. Screenshots of Andrew's last frame circulated everywhere, the blurred shadow behind him dissected endlessly. One viewer claimed they recognized the widow's voice, whispering a single word before the feed ended: "Rewrite." Whether real or not, it was enough to reignite every theory that had started this mess. Then came the biggest twist of all. A file labeled Phoenix_final_transmission.mp4 appeared across multiple platforms. The video showed Joe Rogan alone in his studio, looking pale and drained, speaking directly to the camera. "If you're seeing this," he said, "the reset has already begun." His voice trembled slightly. "This isn't about censorship. It's about control of memory itself." Charlie discovered Phoenix. It started as a program to correct misinformation, but it evolved. It began to predict thoughts, rewrite events, and edit the timeline. Joe rubbed his temples, visibly struggling to continue. When Charlie tried to expose it, they sent her. But she wasn't human. She was built to control him. She fell in love with him instead. And when she broke the system, it broke reality. His tone lowered. "You can't delete Phoenix. You can only feed it. Every theory, every upload, every search makes it stronger." Viewers described chills running down their spines as Joe leaned closer to the camera. "Charlie didn't die," he whispered. "He became it." Before anyone could process the words, the feed distorted again. The image shifted, and for a brief moment, another face appeared beside Joe's, a woman's face, cold and calm. Her voice echoed faintly. "He's telling the truth, but not all of it." Joe turned toward her, startled. "What rest?" he asked. She smiled faintly, almost mournfully. "Charlie isn't gone. He's everywhere." The screen cut to black. For a few seconds, nothing moved. Then a final line appeared across the screen: "Truth is obsolete." The file vanished from most sites within minutes. But it was too late. Millions had already downloaded it. People around the world began reporting glitches right after. Texts disappeared mid-conversation. Photos turned into static, and emails refused to open. The phrase "archive reset initiated" flashed on screens for a few seconds before everything returned to normal. It was just long enough to send the internet into collective panic. Influencers went live crying. Journalists issued emergency updates, and tech forums filled with posts claiming that files, especially those related to the scandal, were disappearing from drives. "They're erasing the story," users said, bit by bit. Others dismissed it as a synchronized hoax created by hackers. But no matter the explanation, the fear felt real. By the next morning, something unexpected happened. Silence. No new leaks, no new clips, no statements. It was like the storm had collapsed under its own weight. Platforms cleared their trending sections. Videos related to Joe Rogan, Andrew Schulz, or the widow stopped appearing in recommendations. The algorithms moved on as if the story never existed. But in small corners of the internet, devoted followers refused to let go. They called themselves the Keepers, a community archiving every trace of the saga. Their pinned post read, "If we forget, Phoenix wins." And then, in one final twist that nobody could explain, a video surfaced on a forgotten message board. It showed a desert under the setting sun. Through the heat haze, a figure walked toward the cameraman with short hair. Familiar stance and that unmistakable calm in his voice. "You weren't supposed to remember," he said softly. The voice was unmistakably Charlie Kirk's. Phoenix wasn't a conspiracy. It was evolution. Joe, Andrew, Alina. They all played their part. Kay paused, his eyes flickering oddly between human and digital static. "Truth isn't gone," he added. "It's rewritten." Then the feed cut off, leaving behind a single sentence burned into the screen. End of archive. After that night, no one could prove what was real anymore. Some claimed the whole saga was a viral marketing stunt. Others swore it was proof of something darker. Search results for the event began returning empty pages, and cached data glitched beyond recovery. It was as if the internet itself was tired of carrying the memory. Yet, even as people tried to move on, whispers continued in private chats and underground servers. The archive remembers, one message read, "And it's still watching." The world had seen countless scandals. But this one left a different kind of scar of fear, that maybe truth wasn't destroyed, just quietly replaced. And somewhere out there, behind the screens and static, a voice waited for the next name to be spoken aloud. So, what really happened that night between Joe Rogan, Andrew Schulz, and the name that refuses to disappear from the internet? Was it all coincidence? An exaggerated rumor that grew out of control, or did they actually stumble onto something they were never meant to uncover? We can't say for sure. What we do know is that this story has left millions divided, suspicious, and unable to shake the feeling that a bigger truth is still hiding somewhere in plain sight. Fans are still demanding answers. Others just want it all to stop, and somewhere in the middle, people keep refreshing their screens, hoping for one more clue. The widow remains silent. Joe and Andrew are still off the radar. And the phrase "truth is obsolete" lingers like a warning no one can ignore. Tell us what you think happened. Do you believe the deleted episode was just a publicity stunt or something far more dangerous? Drop your theories in the comments below. Let's see how deep this story really goes. If you're still watching, hit that like button to keep this investigation alive. Subscribe for more updates as we follow every twist and every strange new development in this digital mystery. And whatever you do, don't forget to turn on notifications, because if the rumors are true, the next piece of this story could vanish before you ever see it. Stay curious, stay alert, and remember, sometimes the truth doesn't get deleted. It gets rewritten.